Owning a house is very expensive. You've got council tax, utility bills, gas rates, electric. There's a lot more than that. I just can't think at the top of my head because there's that bloody many of them. It's very expensive to own your own house. It's a bloody rip-off. But the thing is, you think, why is it so flipping expensive? As soon as you're born, they're taking money off you. As soon as you die, you have to pay for your funeral. Everything is very expensive. So there's a lot of people in the world now, they've had enough basically. They've started to think outside the box and they think, do you know what? I stuff all this settling down. I'm going to be a traveller. And when I say traveller, that means I'm going to be a van lifer. I'm just going to get a van and just going to live in it because it's going to be cheaper and I'm going to be free. And life is going to be wonderful. Now the thing is, I've lived in a van for 2 years and it's not what you think it is. It is good, but it's not what you think it is. But the good news is, I was figuring it out as I went along. After 2 years, you start to recognise what it takes to live in a van and the reality of being a van lifer. And in this video, you're going to find out exactly how to do that.
Analyzing the news.
Okay, so becoming a van lifer in the UK can be an exciting and freeing lifestyle, but it does take some planning. It really does. We all have dreams and fantasies and think, oh, it's going to be amazing. But the reality, it's not what you think it is. It's that famous saying, the idea of something and the reality of it are completely different things. So here are, and I've really thought about this, simple steps and a step-by-step guide to help you get started. And I put it in 10 simple steps. So it's easy for you to digest, not like me, because I was literally making it up as I went along. But I got there in the end. I just put that light on. It's bloody dark in here. It's because winter's kicking in. You don't realise when you're living in a house how dark it gets, because when you're in a camper van, it's very light because you have plenty of windows and it's only a small space. But here is the first one. Here is number one. You have to decide if van life is right for you. Now this is interesting because you have to think about why you want to live in a van. Now obviously people say, well, it's freedom and the freedom to travel, and obviously it's cost savings. I'm going to save loads of money, which is very true, you are. But it's not about what other people think. You've got to decide yourself what it is, what are your reasoning behind it, and why you really want to be a van lifer. Don't just become one because you've seen someone on YouTube do it and you think, do you know what, that looks pretty good. Because it's all right watching it on the TV, but the reality is different. So you've got to be very clear and really think about this. Be very clear why you want to do it. And then you've got to consider the challenges, because there will be challenges. Like space, for example. It's like I'm walking around this kitchen. It's only a small kitchen, but it's a lot bigger than a van. So this is just one room. So you've got to think of things like that. Your space, how are you going to deal with it? So do you really want it? Can you be in a small confined space? You think you can, but imagine being in that small space 24 hours a day. You've got to keep very tidy and organized. So we just got to think about that. But again, remember, just consider these things like the challenges, like space and weather, because what if it's cold? And it will be. We live in England, it can get very cold, especially in a van, because it's, unless it's converted properly, it's going to be very, very nippy. And then you've got to consider, where am I going to put it? And with a house, you own the land. Or if you rent a house, you rent the land. The house is on the land. With a van, you can get a little bit nervous sometimes because you're almost trespassing. So you've got to think about that. So that would be the first one. You've got to really think about this. Why do you want to do it? It's so important. And really think about it. Why do you want to be a van lifer? Write it down. Here's number two, which is set a budget. Now, people don't do that. Well, some people do, but not everyone. But you should do it. You have to set a budget because you have to figure out how much you can spend on buying or, alternatively, converting a van. You need to consider all the costs like fuel, insurance, maintenance and campsite fees, because this is all inevitable. You can't just park your van anywhere outside IKEA and think, oh, I'll be all right, because it won't. Then there is number 3, which is choose the right van. You need to decide between buying a pre-converted van or a camper van, or converting one yourself. Now, some people say, well, I'll just convert it myself. I know what I'm doing. I'll just watch YouTube videos. But it's easier said than done. Believe me, you've got to be very aware of exactly what you want. As long as you've got a goal and you know exactly what you want, you've got an image in your mind, an imagination, you can sort of get there. But you've just got to be very clear. Again, this is why lesson number 1 or rule number 1 is to ask yourself, why do you want to be a van lifer? Now listen, you need to look for a van with enough space for your needs. Now the most popular ones you can get are usually things like a Ford Transit van, or a Mercedes Sprinter, or possibly a Volkswagen Crafter. These are really popular choices. Because they're popular, they're very expensive. Okay, another one is this one, that is number 4. Plan your van conversion, which means design your layout, where you're going to sleep, like the sleeping area, the kitchen and storage. Write it down. Remember, for something to become physical, it has to be put on paper. So now it's not in your imagination, now it's in physical form, it's on paper, you've designed it. Insulation, to keep it warm in winter, very important, and how to keep it cool in summer, because it might be really warm and this is fantastic, but in the summer you could be literally get heat stroke. It could be that, because it could be like an oven. It's a tin box at the end of the day. It's going to get very, very warm. Then you've got to ensure that you've got good ventilation. If you don't know what ventilation is, it's basically put a hole in it so you can breathe. You need to get that airflow into it. The best thing to do is roof vents or windows to prevent condensation, because you will get a lot of that. And water ruins everything, by the way. It's more dangerous than fire. Then you've got to think of your power source, like solar powers, solar panels to give you your power, leisure batteries, or electric hookups. So have a port where you can put an electric hookup in. If you do all this stuff, it's going to massively benefit you, because you want to be comfortable. You need to make sure you've got a good water system, like a small sink with water tank and a pump. Have cooking set up on cooking facilities, like a gas stove or a portable electric cooker. You need a toilet, by the way, because you will need to go to the toilet. You can't hold it in. Get a toilet, preferably a portable toilet, or some people use a compositing toilet. That's old school, isn't it? Number 5, which is really important, and some people don't do this, you've got to do this, which is register and insure your van. Because if you're converting it, you need to update the van's classification with the DVLA, and you have to change it to a motor caravan. This can also help you with your insurance as well. If you do it properly, it can actually lower your rates. Just shop around. There's loads of websites that will get your insurance down. And get camper van insurance, breakdown cover, and the right road tax. I remember when I first got my van, I just had it as a van, and when it broke down, they refused to come because I turned it into a motorhome. True story. I'm on a diet. I'm always on a diet. When I'm on a diet, the missus always cooks cakes for some bizarre reason. Oh, that looks nice. Anyway, number 6 is find legal places to park and stay. You've got to do this because you'll get caught. Use Park for Night and other apps to find free or cheap overnight parking spots. There's absolutely loads on there. Consider getting a Brit Stops membership for overnight stays at pubs and farms, because you can get them as well. Again, it's all online. So that's called Brit Stops. That's the one I used. It's fantastic. Also check for wildlife camping laws in the area. And in most of England and Wales, overnight parking on public land isn't allowed, but Scotland tend to be a lot more flexible, because you can do wild camping and things like that in that country. It's really good. Okay, then there is number 7, which is plan your finances and incomes. If you need to work while traveling, consider remote jobs. It's called remote working basically, or seasonal working, or freelance gigs. That means you're self-employed basically. You're self-reliant, you're not relying on anybody else. And that's all part of van life as well. You're self-assured, you're your own boss. No one can sack you because you employ yourself, which is really good. Another really important one as well, oh, it's getting dark now, is downsize your belongings. In other words, sell or preferably store things you won't need. Keep only essentials because your space is very limited in a van, which you're aware of. And then there is number 9, which is prepare for life on the road. Learn basic van maintenance, checking oil, changing tyres, etc. You have to know basic fundamentals of mechanics, because if you break down, which you probably will because you're living in it, you're going to be in dire straits, aren't you? Unless you're a car mechanic. So the best thing to do is learn the basics. And the very last tip, and believe me, these are all really good tips. The very last one is basically just hit the road and enjoy, because you'll be dead soon. It sounds negative that, but it's true. Enjoy yourself, do things that scare you and frighten you. Get outside your comfort zone and go for it, because it's better to regret something you did than regret something you didn't do. So start with short trips at first to get you used to this van life. Don't just jump in at first, just to try it before you buy it, and then join things like van life communities and online tips, because there's lots of van lifers out there, and it's like a community, it's like a club, and it's really good, and you tend to get really nice people who think outside the box. Because if you're a van lifer or you want to be a van lifer, you're the type of person who are like other van lifers. In other words, people like people who are like them. And if you're a van lifer, other van lifers will tend to gravitate towards you. So they're basically the top 10 tips to be a van lifer. And believe me, if you follow them, you'll be all right.